Well, on the island of Reunion, which I'll show you where that is in case you don't know, there was a shortage of regular low value stamps used for local mail in December, on December 31st, 1900. And they authorized the use of postage due stamps for a period. And I spent much of my philatelic life collecting the stamp at the upper right, the French colonial allegorical group type stamp. This stamp was used in all the French colonies. I collected postal history from all the French colonies. And I also collected anything else that was going on in the period. This stamp had values of 1 centime to normally 1 franc, some colonies 5 francs. They changed the numeral plugs. There were 13 values there. And they did the name of the colony in a second run through the press. It's kind of it's the issue that was used in the French colonies from 1892 to about 1915. 29 colonial units, probably 22 different colonies. Some colonies like Benin started as Gulf de Benin, then it became Benin, then it became Dahomey. Okay, so that's one colony and it had 3 different group type stamps.
Phil did a nice presentation on this topic just a few months ago.
Well, I'm not going to talk about that actually, because I'm talking about a shortage, as it said, of these stamps for local postage. And so what happened in the second dot on the slide at the left is the local postmaster authorized the use of the then current postage due stamps on local mail for the period 31st of December 1900 to January 20th, 1901, when new supplies of the group type were due to arrive. And he also, as part of the decree, said a manuscript authorization was required on letters that used due stamps for postage. But the decree was so poorly written and so complicated, people were quite uncertain as to what to do. This usage was only valid on local mail, and there are about 50 to 60 covers that survived from this 3-week period, and I had about 30 of them. So I put those together in a 1-frame exhibit. And this is just a slide to show you the island of Reunion. Probably many of you know Mauritius, the British colony. There's Reunion right next to Mauritius. And off in the distance, you have the colony of Madagascar. The island of Reunion was the terminus of the Marseille Reunion French packet. So it had regular packet service that went back to Madagascar and then up to the Suez. And here's a map of the island of Reunion. It's oval, not quite circular. Wherever there's yellow, that's where I have some material showing usage. And I'd like to point out a couple of things. Saint-Denis, which was the major city on the island of Reunion, the commercial center where most of the people lived. If you go west a little bit, you come to the port. Pointe de Galet is actually the name of the post office. That's where the French packets and all the shipping came in, all the supplies, a very important port because that brought all the goods and took everything from the island. And then the coast is filled with small to medium villages around. And you also had a rail line, the windward line, Côte de Vende, ran from Saint-Denis to Saint-Benoît, and then a leeward line, Saint-Denis, all the way to Saint-Pierre, the capital. And most of the post offices are on the periphery of the island, with a few in the center, and just call your attention to the one at Helborg. So I started putting these covers together, and the earliest use I had in my collection was January 2nd, 1901. It's the 5-cent printed matter greeting card rate. If you know the French, December, January of every year is when they send out greeting cards at the printed matter rates to their friends and families. It's a big exchange of greetings, and this was a greeting card from Saint-Denis to Saint-Denis to one of the officials on the island. And I arranged this collection in terms of dates, starting with the earliest. Here's one from Pointe-Galais, the port city used locally. Envie is EV. And you see at Pointe-Galais, they had a manuscript endorsement and the initials of the postmaster. He was validating this usage. It abbreviates proclaimed for franking. Here's one used on a 10-centime postcard, okay, from January 4th. That was the postcard rate. And what I was trying to do was capture different rates. Here's the 15-centime internal letter rate, local rate from the little village of Tampon. When you get to these little villages, there's only one or maybe two covers known from this period. So you're dealing with a great rarity. But that reminds me of the old statement when somebody asks you, you know, how rare is one of the items in your collection, and you respond, well, there are only 5 in existence. And then you say, but only 3 of us who want them. You know, you've got to modify supply with demand there. This is the blockbuster cover that's part of this assortment of use of due stamps for this 3-week period. January 7th, 1901, it is a declared value letter with 2 francs 60 centimes postage for a value of 1,500 French francs. You'll notice it's posted from Saint-Denis, okay, on January 7th to Saint-Denis. So basically it just stayed at the post office. It's built on a 15-centime group type envelope, large format envelope, with the addition of 15, 30, and 2 franc postage due stamps to bring you up to that 2 franc 60 centime rate. Why it got the 2 franc stamp, my guess is the clerk was simply in his draw of postage dues. There was no 2 franc group type. So he grabbed the 2 franc postage due, and so it's a unique usage. And the rate is quite simple, and the next slide will confirm it. It was 10 centimes for postage for a letter weighing 10 grams, 25 centimes registration, and 2 francs 25 centime insurance on the 1,500 francs. That was the declared value of the letter. An extremely long manuscript endorsement, franking and postage dues because of an insufficiency of postage stamps. There are only 2 declared value letters known. This is the most unusual and most complex, and it's the only example that's on postal stationery. And the addressee is a Lieutenant Giraud, who is stationed on the island of Reunion, and he's the famous general from World War I. And there's General Giraud at a little later date in his age. You can now see the cover up close with all of its aspects. Chargé means it's a declared value letter. You'll notice it was received. If you go to the back, you can see it was received January 19th after posting January 7th. So it sat in the post office waiting for him. According to this declared value cachet, it weighed 10 grams, had 5 wax seals that were red, and the initials, security initials, CR, embossed into the wax. That's just standard procedure. This probably contained 1,500 francs in cash that weighed 10 centimes that was being paid to the general or the lieutenant then for whatever reason. Here's a January 8th local rate to Saint-Lô. These are moved pretty quickly now. Here's again, another little village on January 8th, Tang-Salé to Saint-Denis. This one's really rare. It's an advisory from the Parcel Post Service that a package has arrived that is to be picked up, used locally in Saint-Denis. So it's a nice printed matter form and shows use of the 5 centime due stamp for printed matter. This is from the village of Saint-André, which is on the upper east side of the island. And you can see there they had a very elaborate endorsement about the use of postage due stamps, whereas some of the letters I've shown you have had none. As I said, the decree caused confusion. This is the only one that I have that shows the simple 10, or had, that shows the simple 10 centime rate used within a village. It's the only recorded example of that simple rate with this aspect. Here's another postcard, but this is a railroad postcard. It's from the rail line Ligne-sur-le-Vent. That's the leeward side of the island, the western side of the island. It was posted to a small village, Saint-Gilles-les-Bains. And here's the other side of the railroad, the Ligne du Vent, the windward side, at the 15 centime rate, posted on the railroad to Helbourg, that little post office way in the center. And it was difficult to get there. You had to go on the rail line. You got off the rail line at Saint Andre. It was taken by truck to Salazie and then to the village of Helbourg. Either the truck continued or they switched vehicles at Salazie. There are two known registered letters. Here's one of them. This one is 5 centimes overpaid. The rate should have been 40 centimes, but it's still quite a nice cover from St. Joseph. Here's one. I told you you were not supposed to use these outside of Reunion, but they got out to a small degree. Here's one from Nosy Bay, which is an island that's part of the Madagascar colony. And even though it was a different colony, it was close by. The packet was carrying it over. You could see it reached its destination on Nosy Bay at Helby a few days later. So that's used to a different country. I even had one to Tamatave, Madagascar, from Pointe-Galais, and you can see the postal clerk expanded his manuscript endorsement because it was going to a place that normally wouldn't get these letters. You can recognize his initials here, and it's got a Tamatave arrival, so we know it did go through the mail, even though this was technically illegal. This is interesting. It brings up a question. If you're going from a post office on the coast to a ship in the harbor, is that the single town rate of 10 centimes, or is it the post office to post office rate of 15 centimes? This one was addressed from Pointe-Galais to a Monsieur Carré, who is a commissioner on board the ship Melbourne, which was anchored in the harbor at Pointe-Galais. So you see it was posted Pointe-Galais, and that ship was part of the Reunion Marseille packet system. So it got the Reunion Marseille octagonal packet date stamp, and it had to pay the 15 centime rate because it was two different post offices, okay? A town post office to a ship post office. Just an interesting sideline. One from St. Paul that has a nice array of group type stamps, plus the 10 centime to make the proper 15 centime rate. Again, the only recorded example of this simple usage. And I actually found this piece of postal stationery. Somebody had the 15 centime envelope and used it during this period. You can see it's January 19th. The decree expired the 20th. And it went through the mails as normally. If you could frank a letter properly, it went through the mails, but you don't see many of them. This is the only one I saw. And finally, the last cover in the group is from January 24th. That's 4 days after expiration of the decree. And take a look at this cover. It was posted Helbourg, that post office in the center of the island, 4 days after expiration of the decree on January 20th. It was hit with a T in triangle for due, but then the clerk saw the postage dues on the back and this manuscript endorsement, which reads proclaimed for franking, okay, and it arrives in Saint-Denis, its destination. So it went through the mails 4 days after the expiration of the decree with the postage due stamps as being valid. And the question comes, why? Okay, why was this accepted? It was 4 days after the decree. And I think the answer lies in the map. You look where Helbourg is, okay, it's here in the center of the island. The ship came in at the port, okay, Pointe-Galais, the stamps on the 20th had to be carried to the main post office at Saint Denis, where they were set for distribution to all these post offices. And poor Helborg is in the center and was probably at the end of the list and didn't get its due stamps till, pardon me, its regular stamps till after January 24th. So they used the postage dues 4 days outside the decree. And this is Helborg today, okay? It's a beautiful place. We were talking about beautiful places, upstate New York. I love upstate New York, but here's Helborg on the island of Reunion on a nice sunny day. You can almost feel the freshness of the air. This is the first page from my exhibit, which I thought I would throw out. I did a one-frame exhibit on the use of these stamps. And you can see an introduction here, a little text here with respect to my first cover, and then highlights of the exhibit so the judges know what they're looking for. And then I told them, I'm the guy that's done all the publication on this, and I gave them a lead reference for the publication. So what happened when I exhibited at my local show in Westfield, New Jersey, got a gold medal. I exhibited at the Collectors Club one-frame competition. I got an award of merit. That's not so great. I mean, it's a nice award. Normally 5 of them go out. The grand award, I should mention, at that competition was a one frame of St. Louis Bears, if you could imagine that. And the reserve grand was one frame of the 10-cent New York Postmaster Provisional. So I was up against 2 blockbuster one-frame exhibits. I was happy to get an award of merit. I also presented this collection at the Collectors Club way back in the 90s, early 2000s. We had a Collectors Club exhibitors workshop, and you would present your collection before a panel of judges. And I don't know if many of you are exhibitors, but these guys are really, or were really, top judges: Bob Odenweller, John Livesay, Steve Reinhardt, Tom Mazza, and Mark Banchek. Mark Banchek is still very, very active. And these 5 guys took my exhibit apart. They shredded it, literally shredded it, and gave me 2.5 pages of notes on how I should reorganize the exhibit. And I quickly went home and I followed them to the letter, exhibited at Bolpex that year. That's the Labor Day show in Baltimore. And I got the one-frame grand award that put me into the Champion of Champions in Biloxi, Mississippi for one frames. This is the APS Winter Show. And I got the one-frame Champion of Champions award. And of course, could no longer exhibit nationally. So I basically exhibited at the national level 2 times. I put it in Singapore. I got a large vermeil, non-competitive at a French colonies exhibit in Paris, the Royal, when the Collectors Club went there. And then in 2013, the Berlin Philatelic Club was celebrating its 125th birthday, and a group of us from the Collectors Club went, and I put it non-competitively. And I did go into an FIP show in, of all places, Saint Pierre and Miquelon, another tiny French colony way up by Newfoundland, and I actually got a gold medal for it. So I was very, very pleased. And my last slide, there are other examples. I collected the era of the group type, everything going on. And yes, there was another example of shortages in Guadeloupe, but they weren't as clever as Reunion. They just accepted prepayment of the letters during the shortage period in cash. And from the post office of 3 Rivers, they put a little receipt right on the letter, received 2 centimes. This is again New Year's greetings going at the printed matter. And from St. Rose, not even a manuscript, they just hit it with a PP. But that's another story for another day. So that's my story about Reunion postage dues used as postage for the 3-week period. One of these little oddities of the French colonies that pop up during the group type period. So that's my story.
How long did it take you to put this collection together?
20 years.